Welcome to the So Much More podcast, where we talk with people in the custom window treatment, soft home furnishings industry, and so much more. I'm your host, Seal DeGuglielmo. My guest on the podcast today is Kristin Speyer. She started Redhead Sewing LLC 10 years ago in the Texas Hill Country. She works to the trade, and she has a core group of designers that keep the sewing machines running furiously. There is currently a small team of 2 other workers, and plans for expansion are underway. Kristin and her husband have been married for 22 years, and they spend their downtime mountain biking, which we'll talk a little bit about today, traveling and trying to outsmart their dogs. She also has a passion for books, friends, and office supplies. That's something I share with her for sure. I'm really excited for you to hear from Kristin today. We do tackle the topic of mental health in this podcast, and I hope that discussing it is helpful to you. Kristin, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
I am really excited to be here. It was thrilling to get your email, and so I'm so glad we could do this.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm always thrilled to get the yes answer in response. So why don't we start out by having you tell us a little bit about yourself, your life, and your business?
So I'm originally from Southern California. Grew up there with grandmothers and my mother. They all sewed, knitted, did needlework. So this has always been a part of my life.
Okay.
Ever since I was little. And we're now in just outside of Austin, Texas, in the Hill Country, little tiny town called Spicewood. Here with my husband, Chris. He and I have been married for 22 years now. We currently have 2 dogs, and community for us, we don't live very close to our families. Mm-hmm. And so for us, our friends, they're our chosen family.
Okay.
And we have just a fantastic community that we camp with, we eat with and entertain. And,
okay.
And
you bike as well, right?
I took up mountain biking 2 years ago because 43 seemed like a great age to start going at speed down a rocky cliff.
Okay, then.
Yes. If you follow me on Facebook, you get to see all my latest bruises.
I have seen a few. They've been impressive.
Yes. So when we get to the question about resilience,
okay,
this is what I have learned is that I can literally crash and cut myself and injure myself and get back up and keep riding.
Oh, what a great lesson. Painful one, but a great lesson.
But it's amazing what the body can recover from. Okay.
Well, I waited till I was 40 to start running, so I can appreciate that.
Oh,
very little falling injuries so far. Knock on wood. So tell me about your business.
So Redhead Sewing has now been in business. It's 10 years this past April, which was an exciting milestone.
Yeah.
I wasn't quite sure, through the years if I'd make it. And it has. I started out with a very different plan. I had intended to sell custom Christmas stockings on Etsy.
Okay.
And I did some sales there, but the piece about advertising and getting a steady clientele was really challenging for me. So instead, I just put out the word to friends and family, said, hey, I am sewing. Whatever you want me to sew, I will sew. Made dog beds, did some custom clothing, did a lot of alterations, but it kept coming back to home interiors.
Okay.
And then through the years, as it kind of filtered down, it was like, okay, that's where my money is. Home interiors. I can do it. I can do it quickly. I can do it efficiently. I don't have to spend a bunch of time researching how to make the jeans look just right.
Right.
And then as I developed more of a clientele, I started picking up interior designers.
Okay.
And then the interior designers, we kind of narrowed it down even more that we are really focused on just window treatments.
Okay.
So our primary right now draperies and Roman shades.
Okay.
That's probably 90% of what we do.
Okay. So you're not doing other soft furnishings. You're focusing on those things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's one of those every once in a while, a good designer say, could you do a coverlet? Mm-hmm. Okay. We're doing the rest of the house. Fine.
Right.
But it's not as much fun for us.
And it's interesting because when they always say that if you, and I always struggle with this word, it's either niche or niche, but niches and the riches is what rhymes. When you niche down, you become more proficient at what you're doing. You're faster at it. You're more productive. But then for those of us who started our business for the joy of sewing, you're making the same thing over and over again. And if, your favorite thing to make in your workroom is money, like Freddie Graves famously said, then you're golden. But if the different projects is what excites you, then it's a little bit of an adjustment. So I love that you know that about yourself, and that's where you're focused. That's awesome. So I'm curious, how did you let go of some of the things that you were working on to be able to focus on this? Like, as you said in the beginning, like, what do you want me to sew? When was the first time that you decided, I'm not making another dog bed? This is not fitting for me.
Occasionally I will still make dog beds.
I think it's funny
because I love dogs.
Been asked to make a dog bed. And anybody listening, please don't ask me. I'm okay with that. But I'm so startled by how often people tell me they've made dog beds. I'm like, I have never made one.
No, so it became easier, I think, because it really focused on the stuff that I enjoyed.
Okay.
What was I enjoying making? The alterations, that's horrible.
Oh, I'm with you on that one.
Absolutely. I mean, I did that for a number of things, and it's a whole different skill set. Mm-hmm. And it's very different making alterations for somebody versus for yourself.
Yes.
And so that was an easy one to let go of. And then as was focused more on the home interior aspect of it, it really became a matter of, one, the stuff that I enjoyed. Mm-hmm. I am not a huge fan of putting in zippers. It's not to say I can't do it.
Right.
It's just not my favorite thing.
Okay.
So it was a combination of what do I really, really enjoy making, also by what my clientele needed and what they wanted.
Okay.
And most of them, they already have an upholsterer. They have somebody who does their pillows.
Right.
It's their window treatments that they're missing component of. And so I think it's kind of a combination of that's where the demand was. That's what my client needs. So now we're doing it over and over again, getting faster and better and finding different techniques to make that product even better.
Okay. All right. I love that. So did you set out to go into business for yourself, or did you have a career before this business?
I had a very roundabout journey to end up here. I sewed a lot in high school. Growing up, I sewed my own clothes quite a bit. And a lot of people were always like, well, of course, are you going to go into sewing as a career? And I did bring it up with my career counselor. I said, what I really would love to do is work with vintage textiles. And she was like, oh, is that a thing? And this is, of course, before the internet, and it's a lot more difficult to find that information and what path you take.
Right.
So I ended up more so just getting a job to pay the bills. I worked at a florist. I was a picture framer for a couple of years. I worked in refrigeration supplies, and I did HR administration. I ended up, it gets really boring, filing. I interviewed for a local workroom here for an office position.
Okay.
And I didn't have the right skill set and software for that, but she offered me a job in her workroom.
Okay.
And I was intrigued by it. And I was like, well, yeah. And then it was like, oh, wait, no, I can have a career of this. I was so worried I wouldn't enjoy sewing anymore if it became my career.
And that's a reasonable fear.
Yeah. And while I don't have an awful lot of time to do my own personal sewing, mm-hmm. I still have a stack of fabric and patterns down in the workroom that I will get to someday.
You are holding hope for that.
I have a hope. I have retirement at some point in time.
I love that. So did you take the job in the workroom, or did you say?
I did.
Okay. All right. And
yes. So I worked with her for 6 years.
Okay.
And that was, I already had my basic sewing skills. Mm. She was the one who taught me specifically drapery making.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I did that. And then when I was planning to, when I left and decided to open up my own shop, I really had, this total different trajectory that I planned to go to. And that's just not where it ended up.
And that's
sometimes you just roll with where life directs you.
Exactly. So in getting started for yourself, I love talking with people who did get the opportunity to start in another workroom. Mm-hmm. Some of us set up with a cardboard work table from Joann Fabrics or our local fabric store. And some of us were a little bit more deliberate about it. Did you feel like you were more deliberate because of it? Or how did you get started for your own business?
It did. So the great thing is that I had then the knowledge and the resources to find those correct tools to make the job easier.
Okay.
When I sat up my business, 2 plastic folding tables in my husband's office, bought myself a new embroidery machine.
Okay.
And I think within the first year, I bought a really small boiler iron.
Okay.
Because we all know that the boiler iron is a game changer.
Yes.
And you can't go back.
Right.
So we had, once it started shifting what I was actually making, mm-hmm. then it was like, oh, I know that Rolly has supplies to make a real work table.
Okay.
And here's what I need, here are the things that I know that I can get to make this easier. Mm-hmm. And then it was just the more I started learning about the different suppliers, what their different options were, it was like, oh, now I need a table clamp. Now I need a cutting guide.
So a little bit at a time bit at a time,
as there's a little bit extra profit, you pick up something else.
Okay. So knowing that you have 10 years under your belt for this, did you ever think about quitting in all of this?
Like every month. At least once a month.
What are the things that make you want to quit?
So I think one of the biggest things that makes me want to quit is at the root cause my own problem. I have a difficult time saying no.
Okay.
I have a difficult time pushing back and saying, I know that your clients are moving in on this date, but I still have 5 projects that have to be done first. Mm-hmm. And so then I end up taking on too much, committing to due dates that are insane. And last year was just a rough year, I think, for everybody.
Yeah.
But I ended up working between 6 to 7 days a week until 10 o'clock at night. And that's not a sustainable model.
No, it's not. And it's exhausting for us physically and mentally to work like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, and of course, everything that went on last year worldwide was challenging. Mm-hmm. And then we also, we dealt with my stepfather had a very aggressive cancer. And so in the midst of these insane deadlines that I'd committed to, I'm flying back and forth home to help my mom care for him in his final days.
Okay.
And so it's, there's just that huge weight of the responsibility to your client, the responsibility to your family.
Right.
That last year was really hitting home, that at the end of the day, if drapes are not on your windows, nobody is dying.
Exactly.
That there is a perspective mm-hmm. that I struggle with maintaining.
Is it any easier after what you've been through this past year, or is that still a challenge for you?
It's still a challenge. It is getting a little bit easier.
Okay.
It's getting a little bit easier. And I think too, it's a piece of exhaustion after everything that went through. It's like, you know what? I busted my rear end. I can't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. I do not have the physical or mental wherewithal to push. And you know what? As soon as we get it done, we will line up the install.
Right. And keywords being when we get it done.
When we get it done, and I try to, when I, talk with clients that we're working on something, it's like, okay, tell me what your priorities are. Do we need to get the nursery done? And you have people coming for something, so we need to do the living room.
Right.
And then the other rooms, we'll get to them when we get to them. And so just trying to find a way that, look, it is not reasonable. I cannot do the entire house when you want it done. But let's work together.
Right.
And find a good space.
I think that, we've talked about it enough times on the podcast about client expectations being, managing their expectations. But I'm wondering if you've felt this at all with the supply chain issues and everything that we've been through in the last now almost 2 years. I feel like it's an advantage for me that I can turn to my designers and say, yes, my turnaround time used to be this, now it's this. And I did move my holiday deadlines up a little bit more this year. And all of my designers were like, yeah, I figured that was going to happen, because I couldn't guarantee that things were going to be in on time. So,
right. And that has taken a piece of pressure off.
Thank you. Okay. Because I have really felt pretty strongly about that, but I thought, am I just using it as an excuse, or is this really accurate?
Okay. To be fully honest, occasionally, there has been a time that I did use that excuse.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't get it.
Yeah.
We couldn't get it out on time. But the big thing, that I'm running into with supply wise is that, when people are asking for due dates, I'm telling them, look, here's when we can expect it. However, that is dependent upon your hardware arriving.
Yeah.
And that I have no control over.
So many things out of our control.
And right now, I've got of course it's the end of the year. Everybody wants to install and get things wrapped up. And I've got 2 installers that I use. They have, my one main installer, I have him 3 days this month. That's all that he's available.
Okay.
And so as much as as we are ready to install, I can't get him available.
Right.
And that I do not do my own installs.
No,
I'll hang up Roman shades. I can do that. But I'm not going to go drilling into somebody's wall and putting 50-pound drapes up there.
Me either. But I never want to let anyone down, but I do think that some of those factors have taken some pressure off of what I can and can't accomplish. And I would almost rather have something finished in my workroom and say, I'm sorry, I just can't get the installer booked, than the other way around, where it's, I got to get this finished for such and such a date. And I learned from a friend of mine, I will often kind of pencil in an installation date because I do love a good deadline to push me.
And there's nothing like pressure.
Yeah, exactly. However, it's not set on the calendar until I'm far enough along. So I'm always curious about how we all handled that portion of our business and how we deal with it.
So this past year also taught me, my husband likes to point this out to me every time I get panicked about a due date. He's like, remember what happened last time? Because I work with designers, we're primarily doing either a major remodel or a totally new construction.
Okay, I was going to ask you about that because you're mentioning different rooms within the house. So that's a whole different business model too.
Yeah, so we're going in and we're doing the entire house. So what the designers like and what I like is for us to install at the end of construction, just before they bring in furniture.
Right.
That's our ideal time. Obviously, with construction, that is a moving target.
Right.
It's really hard to hit.
And so is furniture delivery at this point.
Furniture delivery, there's a lot of moving pieces to coordinate. But so many of these, like, I stayed up ridiculous hours to complete the project because they are moving in on Tuesday. We have to have it up Friday. Okay, pull the all-nighter, get it done. We get there, walk in, and the ceiling is still open.
Oh my goodness.
The electricians are running wires. They are not moving in.
No.
And, it's happened other times that we've gotten there to install and, but it looks like they haven't finished painting this wall yet, that there's still touch-up going on. I don't want to hang up my drapes until the painters are done.
Right.
And it's like, well, we'll hang up the hardware and then I can come and hang the drapes whenever we need to. Mm-hmm. I go back and they've got wallpaper up.
Oh my goodness.
And so Chris has been really, like, every time I have a total collapse and freak out, he's like, but remember what happens.
Yeah.
Are you sure that house is absolutely finished? And the answer to that is usually no, it's not completely finished.
Okay. All right. So you can give yourself a little breathing room when
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So 10 years is a good span of time to come up with a lot of different successes and challenges. So I want to talk about your definition of success first. What is that as it applies to you personally or your business? And then what's the greatest success you've had in your business so far?
So specifically for business success, the two clients or sub-clients, homeowners that I find are the most honest are husbands and teenagers. When they see an installed window treatment, you will get a very honest reaction from them.
That's so interesting. I agree with you.
And I will tell you, when I am up on a ladder, steaming out a window treatment, and I hear the 15-year-old daughter whose room we're working in come in, catch her breath and say, oh, it's so pretty. That to me, like, that is success. That's the why I do what I do.
Okay. And that, I have to say that it is frequently a response similar to that, in that makes some of what we do, some of what we go through, worthwhile.
Yes.
Okay.
That's that point that I go, I am glad that I put all this work into that.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about challenges. What have been some of the biggest challenges for you?
So I will tell you a project-specific challenge. We did a sheer drape mounted track recessed into the ceiling. And it was one continuous track that wrapped 3 walls.
Oh my goodness.
And let's just say that was the largest disaster that I have had in my business.
Oh my goodness.
It was one of those, it took us 3 tracks to get it correct because they were bent too tight on the corners, and we couldn't get the carriers around the corners.
Oh no.
And so now I've got the builder out there ripping out from the sheetrock because they've sheetrocked up to it. And now they've got mud into things. Yeah. Oh, it was a nightmare. That was after I hang these drapes, I'm going to change my phone number, my email, my company name. I never want to hear from these people ever again. That was my biggest challenge.
Okay. And that I can feel that one in my shoulders and my neck and my back. And oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
So now I tend to dissuade people who are interested in recessing a curved track.
Okay. For good reason.
Yes. I tell them I have personal experience on this. Please don't do this.
I don't need to say any more than that.
Right.
the sponsors of the So Much More podcast, allow me to bring guests to you each week. And without them, I couldn't do it. I'm pleased as the owner of the Curtains and Soft Furnishings Resource Library that I can use the library to help sponsor the podcast as well. The library hosts the industry's largest curated collection of educational resources for the custom home furnishings professional. Membership to the library gives you access to a wealth of downloadable reference materials, videos, live events, as well as a community of support to help you develop your design, sales, and fabrication skills, and to grow or start a business. Join the library today at csfrl.org. The Workroom Channel is the premier online training provider for professional fabrication skills. Go to theworkroomchannel.com to browse the selection of anytime access courses created by industry experts. Watch detailed demonstration videos, download companion materials, and participate in private course discussion boards with your instructor and classmates from around the world. Start your course path today at theworkroomchannel.com. Education, networking, visibility, and industry discounts are just a few of the benefits that are offered to members of the Window Covering Association of America. The WCAA is the only national nonprofit trade association that's dedicated to the window coverings industry and the dealers, decorators, workrooms, designers, and installers that make up our membership. The library is a gold level sponsor of the WCAA. Join today at WCAA.org. WCAA, where you are never in business alone. Discover Klimaka Studios, where innovation meets exceptional design. Klimaka fabric and wallpaper collections are inspired by the original works of collaborating artists and developed with the understanding of how fabrics are manipulated into exquisite soft home furnishings. Workroom businesses enjoy exclusive access to engineered designs and best trade pricing. From clever layouts to classic linen prints, Klimaka Studios delivers the quality and consistency that your business demands. And Klimaka's reliable, on-time delivery keeps your projects running smoothly. Go to klimakastudios.com for swatches and trade account information. Klimaka Studios, for the joy and profit of workrooms. And what about in business in general? What have been some of the biggest challenges for you?
So as we were discussing kind of offline and in email, I have had diagnosed severe depression and anxiety since I was in my early 20s. Mm-hmm. And it is something that I have been on a number of medications over the years. They work really well. They wear out, my body adjusts, we have to try something new. Okay. A particularly challenging life event comes up and that triggers it. There's, I've learned all sorts of, I've been in therapy for years, which I'm a huge proponent of. Mm-hmm. Even if you do not have issues, everyone can benefit from therapy. But it is something that is a part of my life.
Okay.
And for people who don't have depression, everybody's depression is different. It's very much, there's a chemical misbalance there. Mm-hmm. The chemicals in your body are different than mine.
Okay.
And so there are some similarities to it, but you're going to experience it very different.
Okay. I've never heard it described quite like that, Kristin. And I want to say thank you for being willing to talk about this, because I know, we see sometimes people will post things on Facebook, people who are willing to be open and vulnerable about it. But it's not always a comfortable conversation for people to have. No. But it's an important one to have because, here you are, a functioning human being and running a business, but who also is struggling with this chemical imbalance in her body that creates creates symptoms differently than other physical ailments. Mm-hmm. And so yes. I'm grateful that you're willing to talk about it, but what has it meant for you? Because as we talked about before we started recording, having someone say, oh, take a walk, get some sunshine, right. Smile, you'll feel better. Like you want to slap them on the side of their head and say, yeah, if it were that simple, I would have solved this already.
I have one of my favorite authors. She has a number of diagnosed mental illnesses, also chronic medical conditions. And she writes these amazing books and they are hysterical. But she's very open about her experience. And I think it's so important for us, the way that she describes hers showing up versus mine. I think one of the biggest ones that I think is easy for people to understand is that if you think about spoon theory, everybody in the morning wakes up with a certain number of spoons. And every activity that you do costs you a spoon. So
gotcha. Okay.
You get out of bed, that's a spoon. You get into the shower, that's a spoon. You take a call from a difficult client, maybe that's 3 spoons.
I was going to say, that's more than 1 spoon. We all know that.
Right?
Yeah.
And for people who have mental illness, for people who suffer from chronic illnesses, they may have fewer spoons than somebody who doesn't. And so it's this balance of, like, for me, a lot of times when I'm depressed, it feels like I am walking through molasses all day long.
Okay.
It's this push. So I have to prioritize where I use the energy that I do have.
Yeah. Which spoons you're going to spend on it.
What am I going to spend my spoons on?
Okay.
And so it's planning out my week.
Okay.
Kind of knowing, like, if I'm balanced and everything is under control, great, I can go full tilt and full bore ahead. I was telling you, because we were emailing yesterday, and I was like, today is a lousy day. I am struggling. And I had the whole day to myself in the workroom, which I don't, because I have 2 ladies who work for me, so I'm not always alone there. But I had the time to myself, which is really helpful because I need to be alone.
Okay.
I needed to piece together a cornice that was a little bit complicated, and my brain couldn't do it.
Okay.
I mean, it's just a few pieces of plywood, and I could not visualize or draw out how I was going to get all those pieces to connect and to hinge so I could transport it, and how to make the cutouts so that they could access the automated shades that are underneath. It was just too much. Mm-hmm. And I knew going into the day that it was going to be a struggle of a day. Usually first thing in the morning, I go to the gym.
Okay.
At least 4 days a week.
Okay.
Because that's a component to keeping myself mentally healthy.
Okay.
And to being able to move 50-pound bolts of fabric around.
Exactly.
I work out so I can do my job.
Right.
But I knew that if I went and worked out, that I would not be able to deal with the stuff in the workroom that I needed to focus on.
Okay. So
I decided, I traded off. Okay, today is not a gym day. I need to use my energy elsewhere. Mm-hmm. And even that energy, I barely, I finally had to give up on the cornice and started setting up Roman shade for my ladies today to work on.
Okay.
And so it's trying to be strategic on what can I handle today.
Mm-hmm. Kristin, I think that there are going to be a lot of people who listen to this it will really resonate with them, because mental health is an issue that many of us are dealing with. The thing that is impressive to me is that you are able to redirect that energy, and that has to be something that you have to have arrived at over time.
Through a lot of years of therapy.
Yeah, because
it really is.
That's the kind of day where it'd be really easy to go back to bed and
I have.
Okay.
There are days that it has been bad, and I have gotten out of bed and maybe had breakfast and gone, I cannot do this.
That's it.
I just can't do it. And I crawl back into bed.
That was all the spoons I had for today.
That was it. I got up, I fed the dogs are taken care of, and that's as much as I can handle. It's, to me, or what has helped me is one of the biggest things with therapy has been learning self-awareness.
Okay.
And learning where my triggers are, recognizing when that depression is starting to hit, because one of my first signs for myself is I start a very negative self talk.
Okay.
The monologue in my brain starts doing what are you doing charging this much for drapes? Are you really worth that much money?
Okay.
Why are you running your own business? You should not be in charge of these things. You can't run your household. How can you run a business? And it's paying attention to that and knowing that that's a sign that there's something in my protocol that isn't working.
Okay.
Have I been taking my medication? Have I been going to the gym? Have I been sitting outside in the sun? Have I talked to my friends recently?
Okay.
Have I been eating a balanced diet, or have I been loading up on junk and maybe having too many glasses of wine at night?
Okay.
And so it's over the years, I've learned to recognize all of those little symptoms a little bit faster.
Okay. Do you think you've gotten better at responding to those signals and caring better for yourself?
Sometimes.
Okay.
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes by the time my brain finally goes, oh, wait, this is what's going on, it's too heavy.
Okay.
But then that is when I have a care team. I reach out to my doctor. I reach out to my therapist. I let my husband know. I have, a list of friends that I know that I can reach out to, and they'll get back to me immediately and just be like, okay, how can I help you?
Right.
What do you need today? So that's been really good. And for me, it's the messy side of this business wise is in the workroom.
Okay.
When I am out on a job site, when I'm meeting with a client, it is not something that I ever discuss there. My workers know, are aware of it. I've been, very upfront, because I want them to know that if I'm in a weird mood, it's not because of them.
Right.
But when I'm presenting myself to a client, it is not about me. It's about the business.
Right.
And I think over the years, there's maybe only been 2 or 3 times that I've had to cancel and reschedule to let them know I am ill today. I cannot do this. But it isn't something that I do discuss with them.
Okay. I think there's a level of professionalism that we want to keep that has nothing to do with the place that our world is with mental health at this point. Has to do with, I wouldn't let them know if I had to have, some minor tests done, or, there are lots of things about myself I don't share with my designers or end clients. It's just not any of their business. It's not because I'm ashamed of it, or I think I just feel like they don't really need
it's not applicable to the situation.
Exactly. It's not, they don't need to know these details about me. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So that is something. And yes, I have absolutely held it together during a meeting and cried all the way home in the car.
Okay.
But it's the front facing aspect of the business is the part that, I feel like, I guess, because what it is that at the end of the day, my health issues are not their problem. It doesn't matter to them.
And it doesn't matter what kind of health issues we're talking about, but you're right. And I think there's still enough misinformation out there that you don't need to give that information to them for them to be worried about. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, they would like to know when their window treatments are going to be installed and that everything is done correctly. Mm-hmm. We have a happy client and homeowner, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, it's on the backside that, like, again, I need my ladies to just be aware of it, mm-hmm. because I don't want them to be hurt by it.
Right.
Or misinterpret
right.
how I'm reacting that day. Right. And there's only two of us, or there's, well, three of us, but two ladies that work for me. So we work very, very closely. Mm-hmm. We know a lot about each other.
Right. Right. Yeah. When you work together like that, that's not an unusual circumstance.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not, I wouldn't say that there's not a lot of privacy, but they've become friends. Mm-hmm. And they're people I trust.
And that's a fair thing, because as the owner of the business, what you're going through, I mean, if you had a physical ailment that was affecting mm-hmm. your ability to perform, you would talk with them about it. So it's only fair.
Right. Right.
It's difficult to think about some of these things because you've been living with this diagnosis since your 20s. Are there any positives to what you've experienced with this? Is there anything that you look at and say it's been a gift?
So I feel like, how do I phrase it? I feel like God can take something that is unpleasant, that's ugly, and that there can be good brought out of it.
Okay. I agree with you. Yeah.
So that's kind of how I feel. So it has been, at times, really unpleasant.
I'm going to say that, but I'm going to say that's an understatement, but go ahead.
I hope it has given me more compassion toward others.
Okay.
To try to, we all struggle with different things, but to try to withhold judgment and understand that there's something else that may be going on with them.
Okay.
That they're not talking about, and not necessarily related to mental health. All of us, it's just human nature.
Well, what you went through with your stepdad.
Yeah.
Again, that might not be something stuff you talk to your clients about, but you're going through it, even if you're not discussing it. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. People who are having challenges with their children. We all have our own battles that we're facing. And so I like to think that the good thing is that I try to be more open-minded and compassionate to others. I try to be open about what I'm experiencing, because maybe there's something in what I've experienced that will help benefit somebody else.
Okay.
Who's also struggling with it. Mm-hmm. And even if they're not struggling, maybe something that I say can help somebody who has a loved one who's struggling.
Right.
They'll have a better understanding. Maybe there's a piece of that's just, that has helped us. And again, that we are not in this alone. Mm-hmm. That we feel isolated, but we're not. Okay. And just taking that chance to reach out and be like, okay, we can be miserable together.
we can hold each other's hand and say, yep, me too.
I'm miserable. How are you?
And isn't it wonderful to have people in our lives that we can answer that honestly? To always feel like you have to say, oh, I'm fine, thanks, or I'm good, thanks. Mm-hmm. I think there are people in my life who will say, hey, how you're doing too? And then there are people like, hey, how are you doing? So that they know how are you doing? I really want the answer, not just the spiel that you give to everybody else in your life. I'm okay with an answer that isn't great.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Because I care about you as a person.
Exactly. Kristin, I appreciate that you were willing to talk about this. As we said before we started to record, there have been conversations on this podcast that deal with situations similar to this. And anytime we've talked about it, I know it has impacted people who listen to it, whether it's that they say, oh, I go through this too, now I get this. Or, oh, somebody I love has encountered this circumstance, has dealt with depression, and now maybe this is a different...
Maybe a little bit more understanding of that.
Yeah. But I love to ask about resiliency. And so I usually ask it towards the end, but I'm going to ask you now. In what ways do you think you're resilient, especially based on what you've been through? It has been a lesson in what our bodies and our minds can do. We all have them. We all have a number of times throughout our lives. It continues that we get hit upside the head with something surprising. And it has taught me about the importance of reaching out for support, the importance of those really close friendships. We have been so incredibly blessed with the people in our lives that know. I mean, I have, like, there's that core group of friends that when I found out about the diagnosis on my stepdad, sent out to my girls and said, this is what I'm getting ready to go through. I don't know what's going to happen, but could you please just occasionally check on me? And they did. And, and a friend who called me up one day and was like, I feel like you should go out to lunch with me today. And it was exactly the right timing. Right. And you probably didn't know you needed that.
And I didn't know that I needed that. And then we got there and I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad you called me. Our family we can rely on our family. My husband has been the most long-suffering patient of men, learning how to deal with me. And, and then hormones go weird and I become somebody totally different. But honestly, the mountain biking, the weights at the gym, that has all taught me so much about how, we develop muscle by overloading that muscle to fatigue, to breaking it down so that when it mends stronger. And it has, with the mountain biking, I am not good at it. I really had to decide that I think this could be fun.
Okay.
And I am going to keep at it until it becomes fun.
I love that line. But I do think that's incredible. It speaks incredibly well to your resiliency. And as you just said about, breaking down muscles to make them stronger. I think that's a really great analogy.
It's just, there's so many of those little things that I find helpful throughout. A lot of mountain biking is facing your fears because you get to a challenging obstacle. A lot of times, specifically for me, it's downhill when you're going down and it's bumpy and there's rocks and things and it's all moving on you.
Yeah.
And the thing is that the bikes are designed and built to go over all that stuff. The equipment is fine. You can trust the equipment. It's your brain.
Yeah.
It's the brain going, that looks scary. How am I going to navigate that? And then feeling that, taking that fear, but doing it anyway.
Yeah.
And sometimes I totally crash and have to replace my helmet. But other times I make it down. And I get to the bottom and there is just this rush of endorphin that hits going, I didn't think I could do that. And I just did it.
And I did it.
And I think it carries over to the business too, because the first time I have a trend with my designers, they have decided that they like to use the same fabric throughout the entire house. It's a cool effect. but it means that I get a pallet of fabric for that house. And the first time I had a pallet of fabric delivered to my workroom, I freaked out.
I can imagine.
And then we go and we stare at white linen for 2 months and we install it. And it's beautiful. And it's that, yeah, we can do hard things.
I like that. And that's, I've been impressed watching your Facebook posts about the trail riding. I took a little hike one day this weekend and I was walking downhill and I thought about you. I'm like, yeah, there's no way I'd ride a bike down this. I also have a couple years on you, so I probably wouldn't do it for that alone. But I think that I've said this before on the podcast. I used to ask the question, do you think you're resilient? And after quite a few guests, I thought, this is not a, do you think you are? We are. I just want to know.
You're very resilient.
You think you're resilient and what it's meant for you. So thank you for answering that question for me. So on a slightly lighter note, especially since you have employees, do you use much technology in your business?
So I am not a huge fan of technology. Mm-hmm. Which is ironic. Well, it's where I'm married to an electrical engineer because Chris is gadget man.
Okay.
If he were to be hit by a car, I would not be able to work 3/4 of my house.
And you put him on a mountain bike?
Yes. He goes, we mountain bike together. So I'm a bit limited in the type of technology that I use in the business. Mm-hmm. Something that in the past year that I ended up getting was, Seamless Workroom has their their fillable forms.
Right.
So I started using that for our drapery work orders and for our room and shade work orders.
Okay.
And that has really been helpful because before that I was just, handwriting out and the order I put stuff changed by the day.
Right.
Now my girls can look at it. They know exactly where to find what information.
Okay. And as soon as you fill it out, it's changed.
And now it's filled out. It's up on the board and everybody knows what to do.
Terrific. Okay.
So that does, when I saw your question about what's your favorite piece of tech, this morning was what I figured it out. The rear view backup camera on my truck.
I've never had anybody give me that answer before. Why?
It didn't occur to me until today because I have been on some really dicey parking situation on job sites. Mm-hmm. When you've got, a dozen work trucks all over a job site and there's not a drive, the driveway is like this wide and there's no place to park. That backup camera has saved my rear end a few times.
That's so funny, but it's it's one of those things that when you have one, you kind of take it for granted.
Yeah, now I'm like, I don't know how I parked without it.
That's a riot. I love that answer. Okay, you mentioned some of the projects that you have. Do you do any sewing for pleasure? Is there any time for you to do that right now?
I do. I have in the past couple of years, I replaced the drapes in our master bedroom with some Roman shades. I tend to, when we do travel in regular times, I usually take along either cross stitch or knitting. Mm-hmm. So travel is usually my chance to kind of sit down and do a project for myself.
Okay. All right. I like that. What is your favorite thing to make in your workroom?
Did I write down? Because I thought I came up with a good
drapes and Roman shades, so I'm not sure.
I know we make drapes and Roman shades. What? Yeah, I don't know. Like, I enjoy doing that. I guess my favorite part of the process is I love the hand sewing.
Okay.
I really love hand stitching.
Okay.
Sometimes time-wise, it doesn't feel like the best thing to do, but it's such a beautiful outcome. And to me, the hand stitching part is the most zen, peaceful part of it for me.
I can appreciate that. I've admitted this before. I don't always enjoy the process of something. Sometimes I just want to be done and look at the finished project or product. But there have been times recently where I have had to do a little more hand sewing, and I've tried to like appreciate it and understand it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And, Susan Woodcock and I did a 30 Minutes with Workroom Tech podcast that we put on YouTube, and she did hand sewing. And it was so soothing to watch her that I realized like I'm not actually taking the time to enjoy it when I'm
doing it.
And there are times, it's interesting because I've seen debates in the forum on the library as well as in the Facebook groups about, is it faster to take it to the blind hammer or faster to hand stitch your hands? And I can pretty much say if there's no problem with it, unless there's, I'm saying this backwards, most of the time I can hand sew a side hem much faster than taking it to the blind hammer because inevitably there is a problem with a blind hammer.
Right.
So rather than even risk it, it's on the table, it's flat.
Just do it now.
Exactly. But I'm starting to enjoy it more now than I used to.
Yeah.
Kristin, what do you do extremely well?
So ironically, this is the thing that I dreaded the most at the beginning. I think I connect really well with people.
Okay.
When I go out onto a job site and meet with a new designer, or meet with the homeowner or the builder, I feel like I am good at making a positive connection there.
Okay.
That they come away feeling confident in my skill and that their project is going to be done how they want it to be done.
Okay.
That I am able to communicate that I am knowledgeable about this, and that I'm not here to just put everything up and leave and take my check, but I want to make sure you're happy. Right. I want to make sure if there's something that we need to adjust to make it like you envisioned it to be, we're going to be here to do that for you.
Okay. I think that's a really important skill. I really do.
It was the part with my anxiety that I was the most nervous about. Okay. And now it's something that I enjoy the most.
I think I do think that's interesting, that especially when you said that like poor self-talk is one of the things that you have to pay attention to. I love that you have been able to I love that you've been able to acknowledge that skill in spite of not always being able to use that same skill on yourself.
Yes.
I'm trying to get the words to come out right, but I think that's what I'm trying to say. What do you not do so well?
As we said before, I'm not really good at saying no.
Okay.
I am so bad at that. I've had a lecture from my doctor recently about that.
Okay.
So it's something that I am practicing.
Okay. I think that's a problem in this industry in general. I know there are some people listening who are going, nope, I say no. I don't have a problem with that.
So here's the thing. I can tell somebody else that they should say no.
Oh, sure.
Because we discussed, like, I'm connected to some local workroom groups and we are supportive and we call each other and freak out and go, what do I do about this situation? How do I get through this? And, oh my gosh, why are you even taking that job? That person sounds horrible. Say no. But when it's reversed,
you need somebody to tell you to be saying.
I need them to call up and say, why are you accepting this?
I think we all do that. And I'm curious, though, do you see yourself as a people pleaser? Because that seems to be.
Oh, yes.
Okay. I think
very much.
You go hand in hand, the inability to say no and being a people pleaser. And
absolutely.
I wish we could find a balance with it, because I think, as you described as success being, that intake of breath and, oh, I love it, it's so pretty. That is about pleasing someone. So
yes,
it does speak to our why, but at the same time, it's kind of like, okay, but I don't have to please everybody all the time. I need to be able to say no once in a while. I just, if I could find that magic saying or the magic instruction sheet for that one, I could probably be a millionaire on that one. Kristin, what about you would surprise people?
People would probably be surprised to know that I was just painfully shy as a child. I have a lot more practice with it. I'm also married to someone who has never met a stranger.
Okay.
And I think that has slowly influenced me over the years.
Okay.
But as a child, new social situations were terrifying to me.
Okay.
So shy. And it creeps in occasionally still.
Gotcha. I agree with you that if you hadn't said that, I would never have known that about you. What traits do you think someone has to have to become an entrepreneur, especially somebody in this business?
I think insomnia is a great thing to have if you're going to become an entrepreneur.
That's a great answer, Kristin. There's so much problem solving that you can do at 3:00 in the morning.
I mean, I'm not saying it's a positive trait. All I'm saying is that it's very useful.
I agree.
Especially when you work, like my workroom is on my property. Mm-hmm. So at 2:00, if I am wide awake and stressing over work, I have gotten up and gone down and just gone to work.
Okay.
So yeah, I didn't really understand. I mean, I heard from a lot of people that worked with startups, who ran their own businesses, how much time and how all-consuming starting and running your own business is. I still had no clue what that actually looked like. So I think you can't have a fear of work, of really hard work. I think also what's really important is an open mind, mm-hmm. a willingness to continue learning, recognizing, I mean, I've gone to classes, and there were ladies in the class who've been in this industry for years and years and years, and they were still learning new things, mm-hmm. or a different way of doing something. Right. So I think that's really something that's been important for me. Mm-hmm. And I think that's also something that, again, carries over into our lives, is an inquiring mind.
Got it.
Makes us more interesting people.
I agree with that. Where can people find you? Where are you on social media?
So my Instagram, Redhead Sewing Instagram page, that's where I update most frequently.
Okay. All right. I'll put it.
I do have a website. Okay. redheadsewing.com, but Instagram is what is most current, what we're working on now. Okay.
I'll put links to both of those in the show notes. And in asking about traits that an entrepreneur has to have, you've actually given a lot of good advice, but what is a final piece of advice that you would give to someone who's new in the industry or someone who's been in the industry for a while?
To continue to love what you do, to be passionate about it, to find that niche that excites you. Talking with people, you can tell when you have hit that subject that they love, like they light up, they start talking about it, and you get excited too. And I feel like that is something key, because we work so hard. Mm-hmm. We put in so much to this that I don't want to say that it's not important to make sure that we have a job to pay the bills. And sometimes you have to take the job, right, because we all need to have a roof and we need to have food. Absolutely. But if you are going to commit like this, have that underlying passion, so that the days where you find out that the builder has to rip out the curved ceiling track for the second time, you're still going to get up and go to work the next day.
I think that is said brilliantly, because you're right. Those are the days that we do want to quit. And if the passion isn't there to keep going, then you don't.
Yeah. And if that passion has died, it's okay to move into something else.
I agree with you. I don't think we accept that sometimes. I think we think, well, this is what I chose and I need to stick with it.
And I have to stick with it.
We've seen people shift, and especially this last year and a half, we've seen people pivot into different things. I think that's really great advice.
Yeah. We just, maybe it's that particular season. This was the work that you needed to do, but now there's a new season in your life, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think sometimes we need to hear that message.
Sometimes we all just need that permission.
Exactly. Kristin, it has been my absolute delight to talk with you today.
It has been lovely.
Thank you for sharing your challenges. I hope that in talking about it, it allows other people to recognize that they're not alone, or the people that they love could use a different response perhaps than they've given them in the past. And maybe this conversation will have helped them. But even without discussing those challenges, this was still a wonderful conversation. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I've enjoyed it so much.
Good. I've said in the past how fortunate I am to be able to talk with all of the different people in our industry and their different stories and their different journeys. And I'm so grateful to Kristin for sharing what she has struggled with in her life and her business, and to know that in spite of how big a struggle this has been, she still has a successful business and a successful life. While I know the topic of mental health is not always an easy topic to talk about, my hope in this conversation was that I could be respectful enough of what Kristin was sharing with us, so that I could learn something, but to also help her share that message with people. So I hope that it's been something that's been helpful for you to listen to today, whether it affects you personally or someone that you love. In talking with Kristin, she mentioned her favorite author, and I intended to ask her who that was so that we could have it in the podcast. And I forgot. I apologize. I did ask her when we stopped recording. That author was Jenny Lawson. She has a blog called The Bloggess, and one of her books is called Furiously Happy. And I will put a link to that in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a great day.